Department of Defense, Office of Small Business. Previously, we're under the Department of Defense Logistics Agency. So going through some name changes, going through some changes as far as materials. So we appreciate everybody's patience. The program was initially created in 1992 by the Department of Defense, and the whole gist was to increase the interaction between small business and in particular the Department of Defense. And then it just kind of expanded federal, state, local contract as far as anything with the federal government. So I'm one of four counselors, so I cover Central Arkansas and the Southeast, the Delta, and then Tara Huntley covers Central Arkansas and the Southwest. Kimberly Randall covers the Northwest corner of the state. And then Flora Tate, who is three weeks on the job, she covers the Northeast portion of the state. And then we have some support personnel in Central Arkansas, Savannah, George, and then our program director is Melanie Berman. So just enough to kind of give you some background. So the thing that we're going to do first, we're going to do some introductions. So I'm going to ask the panel to introduce themselves and just, say something briefly about who they are. And if you would, just to make it interesting, if you could kind of tell us something, that's a little bit interesting about yourself. Once you give the spiel and this is who I am, this is where I'm from, can you just tell us something interesting about yourself? All right, so we'll start with Danny.
Hey, I'm Danny Hackworth. I'm with 31 Tech Solutions. We provide IT support services for small businesses and nonprofits. Oh, something interesting. I love to ride motorcycles. Love to ride that. That's what I do. If I'm not working, I'm riding motorcycles.
Very good.
My name is Jamie Bryce. I have been with the city of Conway for 18 years. I graduated UCA with an accounting degree a few years before that. I have been in purchasing for 12 years. And something interesting about myself, I'm involved with a lot of all the projects of the city of Conway. And so there's a team in the mayor's office and they call us team too much because we're asking for this guy and then we have to narrow it down to budget. But team too much.
That's great. I'm Brandy Schroeder. I am from the Arkansas Office of State Procurement. So we are the central procurement office for the state. We handle statewide contracts and larger procurements and guidance and policy for all things state procurement related. I'm currently serving as my title is Outreach and Policy Manager. A lot of what I'm doing are things like today, providing outreach to whether that be, suppliers or potential suppliers or agencies, other entities within the state. We're also working on training programs. We're working on reconfiguring our website to make it more user-friendly for all of you folks. And so that's kind of, and writing, I kind of do a lot of things in our office. But I have been a procurement specialist up until the last year. So I work, closely on solicitations that we've issued publicly and developing those processes and such. There's the most interesting thing about me is my family. I have a husband and I have 4 sons, and 3 of them are grown. We're about to launch one of them into college at the U of A. And my husband's a youth pastor, so I also have lots of other children to care for.
My name is Ralph Grinnell. I work for the Arkansas National Guard on Camp Robinson, doing federal contracting for the Arkansas Guard. I retired out of the Air Force after 28 years out of the Air National Guard, and then moved into this about 7 years ago. Began federal purchasing contracting. Probably the most interesting thing about me would be my grandchildren, which I will tell you about, show you a lot of pictures of if you have the time.
Right. So, and the other thing about Jamie that's interesting is she actually worked in this building when it was not this building, so it looks a little bit different. So we were talking about that earlier. All right, so here's what we're gonna do. Here's what we're gonna do, and you don't have a whole lot of time, all right? So I'm not gonna make you come to the front of the room because we're not in school, right? So, but what I'm gonna do is, we're just gonna go around the room. You have about 60 seconds, so make it count, 59, 58. So what you're gonna do is you're gonna introduce yourself, who you are, if you have a business, let us know what the name is. So, and we'll just do it this way. We'll start here, we'll move all the way around, then we'll come back to this table. So just kind of introduce yourself, what you do, and anything, as long as it's not illegal, immoral, otherwise offensive, you can share it with all of us. So you got it.
I'm Anthony Sons. I own American Services AR. We are a standard cleaning company. We do pressure washing and window cleaning. We're looking to grow this obviously while I'm here. We serve everything from all commercial, we've done industrial, and of course, non-residential is how we got our start. I'm looking to pick up more government work and figure out how they actually get in and do that. So,
All right, very good.
I'm Eric Smith, my wife Gayla Smith. We are with Epic Online. We've had it since 1993. We provide services to mom and pop, to Walmart, internet marketing, and app dev. A lot of today, Microsoft SQL databases, Power Apps, so Power BI related, analytics and so forth. And we're here just to get a better feel for what we might be able to take advantage of.
All right, very good. Barrett?
Hello, everyone. My name is Barrett Petty. I'm with Petty Consulting Group LLC, and with my company, the core of it is project management. So let's say, for instance, a federal entity, state entity, nonprofit, or a business wants to start a new initiative, or whatever like that, but however, don't want to pay an employee or get another employee, well, they can 1099 me and I'll get it done. And so I currently have a contract with the Administration's Office of the Court in Little Rock and Justice Building over a study they're doing for the next 3 years, three fiscal years. Also, I'm into political advisement. I was actually the campaign manager for Sheila Franklin for Conway School Board. And I'm also, my background is K-12, and so I do advocacy work such as advocating for children with disability, just making sure they're getting the resources that our government and the laws say they should be received. And I also do math tutor on the side as well.
Very good, very good. Go ahead.
My name is Miguel Thorpe, and I do blockchain, Web3, and AI consulting for startups and just people. And I'm really trying to, I'm an aspiring entrepreneur for a concept I've been working on, personal resource planning software. It's kind of like ERP software for businesses, but for people. And I'm just here to learn.
Very good. Very good.
Erica was another.
Hi, everyone. My name is Latanya Bynum, and I am a Conway native. Actually went to school at UCA, and I've been one of the mentees for Apex Accelerator, but it was PTAC. But just learning more about government contracting. I am currently a contractor with the Centers for Disease and Control Foundation, CDC, where I do qualitative research, and I've been able to get my active registration in the federal government database, but I've never been able to use it. But I've been able to earn over 16 contracts, state and local, most of them outside of the state. So I'm looking to bring my public health consulting experience back home. Nice to meet everyone.
Very good. Go ahead.
Okay,
Go
I guess it's my turn. My name is Veronica Tice. My husband and I own Tice Construction, and then we have a DBA, Tice Con. We're both retired military, Air Force. We were part owners of Grounded Electric, etc. We sold our shares back in December, and we started a new business. So we are doing construction, contracting, and consulting.
Very good.
My name is Leslie Robinson. I have Nakoma Consulting. I'm actually a nurse and decided that I'm going to kind of maybe change gears a little bit. My husband does contracting. He's done a lot of disaster relief contracts and things like that. So more, we're gonna be more along the lines of like, the construction, but more with, like demolition, some emergency relief, janitorial mainly. So that's where we're headed with that.
Okay, very good. So basically what I did was, I actually did something you didn't know what I was doing, but I'm gonna tell you what I just did, okay? So basically, they introduced themselves to you. You introduced yourselves to them, so basically you just network. All right, here's the other thing is, at one point, they may need you. You may be trying to present to them what you have, what you sell, what you do. The other thing is this, if you don't know everybody in the room, how do you know if that person can help or hurt you? So again, always think about, okay, what's the biggest thing I can do with the time that I have? And look, I gave you what, 60 seconds. Well, here's the thing, very busy people, all right, very busy people. So if you get to speak to people sometimes, whatever you say and the time that you have to say it, it better be good. Because probably that's going to be just that moment of opportunity. So just make the most of it and practice. Now, look, I don't recommend leaving today and stopping somebody on the sidewalk. Hey, I want to tell you what to do. But look, if you want to try that, I'll film it with my camera and then we'll have a good time with it. But literally, don't ever forget that you're in business, because if you do, you will lose business. All right, so just kind of remember that. All right, so first question, I'll kick it off with the first question. All right, and Danny's kind of here as kind of that opposite side of, procurement, and then he's actually a small business owner. So I'll ask you a question and he'll have a little variation of it. So the question is this, for Ralph, Brandy, and Jamie is, what is the greatest mistake sometimes that you see, especially a new contractor or somebody who's just kind of starting out? So what's one of the greatest mistakes they might make? And the point is to help them not make that mistake.
Okay, so the biggest thing is in the communication piece. When you read a solicitation, make sure you understand it, read it fully, respond to it fully. Make sure that, and when I say respond to it, make sure that I understand that you understand it. If I've asked for you to send me UEI numbers, all those kinds of things out of SAM cage codes, I need you to quote these 10 clean line items and things. Be sure that you quote exactly how it spells it out in there, really letting me know you understand it, and not just kind of an email saying, hey, I can do what you want for, $100,000. Kind of spell out what you want, everything. And we get a lot of that, or we get incomplete responses back, things where people do send us back, and just kind of an email type thing. Go ahead and send it to us in the line items we ask for. Make sure you understand, be sure and call. Even if you just want to check and see that, hey, am I reading this correctly? Every contracting officer has his name at the bottom, or the contract specialist. Call them and ask them and make sure that you're understanding what they want, clear up any doubt. And then when you respond to it fully and completely to show them that, yes, I do understand and will meet the goals. If I'm, real quickly, and I don't want to, if I'm looking for t-shirts because our guys need them and they need to be logoed this way, respond that way, not just an email that says, hey, I'll do your t-shirts for $10 a piece. You didn't tell me you understood how I needed them done and the quality of that. So it's just real simple examples like that, but be sure to respond back kind of how it was put out to you.
I think my response is similar to that in the way that you're engaging with the state. So from my perspective, I heard at one of the past Apex meetings, one of the past workmen, I don't know, I don't remember what you're called, representatives, said this, often people think of the government or the state as one client. And there's really, hundreds of clients within the state. And so finding the right person is often, can be difficult, right? Who do I talk to? How do I engage with them? Is this going to be my end user? If you contact me, I'm happy to get you in contact with the person I think you might need to talk to, but I don't know what the Department of Health is buying on a daily basis. I don't know. I mean, I can guess, but that's not my wheelhouse. And so the Office of State Procurement has listed, and it changes. There's a lot of turnover in the state, like there is every place else. But on our staff page, if you go to, so the Office of State Procurement is under the Department of Transformation and Shared Services. So understanding how the state works, that there are different cabinets, different departments, and then agencies within those departments. So our office is under the Department of Transformation and Shared Services, TSS, and we have a little webpage that is sometimes user friendly. And there's a staff page. At the very bottom of that staff page is a link to download an Excel spreadsheet. It's very basic. It's not sophisticated in any way, but it has a list of all of the departments of the state, and then a list of higher ed and independents and their procurement contacts. Okay, so that's a very valuable piece of information. And so engaging with those people at that level, asking them, this is what I can provide for you. That's like you just did. Who do I need to talk to about that? Do you have anybody who's purchasing those kinds of things? Because we do have the solicitations out, and we have our multiple places where you can go bid on items. But those are going to be, a lot of our bids are going to be, $75,000 and up kinds of contracts. So if you're looking for day-to-day contracts, you're looking for a smaller order. In our case for the state is under 20,000, those are considered our small order purchases. You're going to need to make face-to-face contact or phone-to-phone contact with the state and with representatives of the state, just like you would any other customer. And so just thinking of just a perspective shift, maybe from thinking of, because we get a lot of calls in our office from vendors. So thinking of the state, just like you would any other vendor or as client rather, in that you're looking at them as individual customers. And the Department of Health is not even just one customer. You've got agencies under the Department of Health. And so it's a little bit overwhelming. There's a lot of contacts to make, but there's a lot of potential as well.
Jane?
So for the city of Conway, we do have 20 departments, but all the purchasing goes through me. So anything over $35,000 is a bid, 50,000 for public works. But I would say the biggest mistake that a vendor can make is not submitting a bid or not submitting it on time. And the state law is very strict on you give us this bid and it has to be on time. We can't accept late bids. So that's probably the biggest mistake. The second biggest mistake I would say would be an incomplete bid. I've received everything from they forgot the bid bond, they forgot to sign the bid form, they forgot to put the total amount or a miscalculation. So we try to simplify the bid process and the specs. Some of those things, especially construction projects, can be huge. They're books. So you have to meet all those. The smaller projects, like a power washing project, would be a simple bid. So those aren't quite as big. They're easy to process and easy to meet those specs. But just turning in a bid form wrong is probably the first reason that you're going to get thrown out.
And before I ask Danny to follow up, so Lakeisha Vance, who was supposed to be here from the Corps of Engineers, she was called away for a national meeting. So, we apologize for that. She would have rather been here with you. So I will share one of her answers. So the greatest mistake is this: you actually find whoever it is you're supposed to talk to, and you say these words. What do you need? They don't want the question, they want you to be the answer. In other words, you do your homework, study that agency, find out, what are the things they normally buy, and there's ways to do that. And then you call them and say, this is who I am, this is what I do, and this is how I will help you. So don't ever approach them as a question, approach them that you are the answer for them, and they appreciate that. And the conversation is gonna go a lot better. So Danny, what's the greatest mistake starting out that you think you made?
Two, actually. One was thinking that I could onboard by myself. That was huge, and attention to detail with that. For example, when I first started doing SAM.gov, I built it all out with my doing business as name. And that created a headache. Just now got all that cleared up. Finally did. The second one is really pay attention to the details. There's a lot of those bids that I'm looking at that I'm interested in that disqualified me instantly because there was like one sentence or one little thing. It's like, yeah, I can't do that thing. So paying attention to the details is huge.
Okay, all right. So on that note, and then you're gonna get to ask some questions. So if you see a specification or you see a requirement in a bid that is honorary, in other words, you can't get past it. Not always, but you can actually contact these individuals or whoever that bid person is. You can contact them and say, look, there's only one thing, this line keeps me from bidding on anything. So not always, but sometimes they can go back, they can review that, they can go back to whoever the user agency is. In other words, who's gonna get that final product or service, and they can tell them, hey, I have somebody, they're interested in bidding, but that one little item is there a way to work around that? So listen, the bid's not written in stone. And I'll tell you from personal experience, sometimes the buyer makes a mistake. In other words, I put something in the bid that we can't work with, you can't work with, so we have to do an amendment, addendum, whatever you want to call it. So always understand, call, email, contact them, because in some cases they can change it or alter it. So don't be shy. All right, so questions?
Tim, can I comment on that?
No, yeah.
In our solicitations, we actually have a line in the first section that says, if there's something in the bid that precludes you from submitting a responsive bid, let us know. And so there's a time frame for that. You can't wait till the day that it's due and tell us too late. There's nothing we can do about it at that point. Not really. And so if there is, but then also tell us why. So I can't make this bid requirement. And you're not going to find another vendor who's going to be able to meet that. That's an arbitrary requirement. That's not how the industry works. That's how the industry worked 5 years ago. That's not what we're doing today. Because not only can the buyers make mistakes, but the end users are working off of current information. So they are not industry experts like you are. They have experience with one vendor, maybe two vendors, and they've been working with this contract for, the last 5 years, but they don't know all the updates. They don't understand all of that like you do. And so it's important for us. That helps us refine those requirements so that we can be more competitive. We want that. We want to have competition. I'm not saying every end user's goal is to increase competition, but that is our role as buyers, is to make sure that we have as large of a pool that we can draw from as possible.
Okay. So basically, if we could keep it to one question at a time, depending on how much time we have, we'll come back around. So you can ask anybody on the panel. If we don't know the answer, we will not. We'll find, if we don't have an answer today, we'll find somebody who does have an answer. So if there's something that you ask us, we don't know, we'll make a note of it and we'll get back to you. So, yes, ma'am.
Yes, okay, so thank you so much for putting this together, and I was excited as well. My name is Latanya Lionel, and I had a question about the Excel spreadsheet, because I saw it, and I was like, yes, my tech skills will come in handy in constant contact. But then I was thinking, oh, I'm more traditional. I love to meet people and talk on their phone. And I hear you saying, ask what you need. What is the best way to be a resource when you know tech and then you also are old school and you like to make friends? What would you say to someone who is coming in as a vendor? What would be the best way to reach out?
To contact.
Excel spreadsheet.
Honestly, that's really going to vary by person.
Okay.
I don't love to talk on the phone. So if I'm a buyer and you're calling me, that's just not my mode of, I text a lot, please don't call me, And so, but I'm also open to scheduling a meeting. I don't want to have to be surprised by a phone call and you're trying to make this introduction. So maybe send me an email and say, hey, this is who I am. Do you have a minute to set up a meeting with me tomorrow? And like set a time frame. Now, I'm not saying that everybody's going to be responsive to that, and you may follow up with a phone call if you don't get a response. But that's just my preference. Obviously, there are as many personalities as there are, people. So that's gonna vary, but that's what I would do.
Another question?
I have a question. So, different, I guess, agencies or, government entities have thresholds of where you have to solicit it and put it out, for bid, and then there's lower thresholds where you don't. How do you find those takers for the lower ones? How do you put it out there to the public? Is that where the relationship kind of comes into play and how you?
And if you could just do it, yeah, one at a time and kind of, because I know they're gonna be different.
On the federal side, we live and die in Sam. I mean, you've got to be registered out there for anything above $10,000, not a credit card, up to 25,000. If it's below 25,000, we'd like to post it in Sam. We're gonna go up Sam, look at next codes, and I know that's important. And we're gonna look up your next code. We're gonna call local vendors in the area and ask questions. But that usually happens between that 2,500 to 10,000, and services are at $2,500 threshold with a credit card and $10,000 on supplies. So, anywhere between that and 25,000, we can do off a phone call. Above that, we're gonna need to post it in SAM, the solicitation out there. So if you're in system for award management, all of you are, if you're doing anything federally, that's where it all begins and ends out there with the next codes, with the dollar amounts up to 25,000. We just look for you.
Yeah, and we don't have a system that's that sophisticated, which, anyway, we're working on things. So we really are a relationship-based community, even though the state obviously is huge. I mean, we're a small state, but the people. And so our threshold for a formal bid is 75,000. So that's pretty high. Anything under 75,000, well, between 20,000 and 70,000, 75,000 rather, unless you're a certified minority vendor or certified women-owned vendor, which I don't know if we're going to discuss, but $20,000 to $75,000 is a competitive bid, but it's informal. So you've got agencies contacting vendors a vendor pool that they're either familiar with or that they've looked up on the internet, right? And so it's easier for me as a buyer if I already know, Linda sells baskets, and I need baskets, then Linda's gonna be on that competitive bid list. Or she's going to be my first call for under $20,000 purchase. Because they just, each agency is going to be different, each buyer is going to be different, and the vendors that the vendor pool that they select, but we don't have a SAM. And we don't use something that we can just go and pull codes from. And we do, but that's not how it works. So of sort of that. And so it really is going to be about just building relationship with each of those end users, just people who buys baskets. I don't, if the Department of Health isn't buying baskets, there's no reason to really spend your time there.
So I would say local, we love to work with local vendors. In the past few years, I've seen electrical companies go from startup to being very successful and very big. And they started with our small projects. And then a lot of them have gone in through procurement co-ops and registered and won those contracts. And those contracts are easy for the city to work with. If you're an electrician and you have a contract already out there that any government can use, that's easy for us, especially if your prices are reasonable and your work ethic is good, and we know that you're going to do a good job. So I think relationships especially is very important. But also call me anytime, email me anytime. We want to work with you all, and we want you to succeed as well. We have a lot of projects going on, so we're always willing to talk to a local vendor.
I had a question for Dana real quick. So far as trying to do that real time, what have you found?
Just not knowing those things, like knowing that you're free to reach out to the individual people and contact them, because when I started doing this, and even now I picture it as this big pool of people sitting in a room, and somebody gets a random email, and how do you grab their attention? How do you market to those? So hearing you guys say that, hey, reach out to us and let us know you exist, that's huge.
And really quick, because something was brought up, now listen, you hear different terms, so how many people are familiar with cooperative contracts? Okay, all right, just really quick, cooperative contracts, that could be NASPO Value Point, that could be Tips USA, that could be Sourcewell, that could be Omni. So here's the thing, so you just remind me, okay, because I'm old enough not to remember, so remind me and I will send you links. I will send you links of all the cooperatives that, I know the state has some listed on their website, but I will send you links for all those cooperatives. Go look at them, and again, it goes back to what they said at the very beginning. Responsive, responsible, those cooperatives will have different mechanisms. You know, how do you respond to a solicitation or an opportunity? So when you go to those websites, just read what their requirements are and get a feel for it. And if you have any questions, I think between all of us, I'm most familiar with NASPO Value Point personally, but if you do have a question after you look at those cooperatives, let us know and we can try to walk through that with you. So another question? Okay.
Yeah, I have one. So when people are reaching out to you or you're searching for, you know, somebody, a client or whatever, what's a big turnoff? Like I am not dealing with those folks.
I'll tell you, you know, COVID hit hard and I totally get it, but if anybody tries to sell me latex gloves again, I'm just gonna. I still get like 5 emails a day on latex gloves and it's just too much. But no, in all seriousness. I answer almost all emails I receive, other than latex gloves right now.
And it kind of goes back to this. Remember what we talked about? They have a list. You know, they just can't go outside the box. Well, hey, I'm gonna order this today, or I'm gonna put out a bid for this today. They've got a box that they operate, you know, based on whoever that end user is gonna be. So you can't offer something they don't need. I mean, they can make note of it, and I know all of y'all are very good at that, where they'll make a note. So if something does come up, I know Ralph last summer, in fact, about this time, he said, hey, we have this coming up. And, you know, who's out there that does these things? And again, you heard they like to work with local companies. Listen, there's nothing that makes me more angry than I start looking at bid results and I'm seeing New Jersey, Virginia, not that I have anything against those states, but I'd like to see AR. So again, very emphasizing the small business, local business. But you've got to give them or offer them what they need and if they don't need it right now, you know how to do that. Well, hey, if you would hang on to my name and my number, if something does come up, let us know. So, other questions? Okay, so,
Real quick, what about services and products services in my case, where there's a standing provider that you recognize and know? That seems to be a part of always the process of, you know, answering a bid. In most cases, we've just said, okay, we're not wasting our time. As if there's always already a relationship there.
Okay.
And it's a done deal. And it's really, in the process we've gone through in the past, it was almost just a confirmation that standing provider was still the legitimate offer. It's like a verification, and we wasted countless hours attempting to provide it.
So on our side, at federal government, if we put a solicitation out there and you respond to it, we're looking at we're gonna look at past performance, technical capabilities, and we're gonna look at price. And no one is a standing, no one has we have some contracts where we have an incumbent. You know, particularly some of our 5-year contracts, our options, you know, the base with options. But at the end of that, once we re-solicit, it's wide open. There is no one that is, that has a leg up in it necessarily. If you've got the past performance, and if you don't, even if you say, well, I've never done this before, you still get neutral past performance. Now, obviously, someone that's done 25, similar contracts would be rated high in that, but you're always going to be neutral. It's never going to be a negative. And same way with your pricing and your technical capabilities. If you can communicate that well enough to us, we're looking for best value to the government. And that's what it comes down to, best value to the government. is how we're gonna cut it. That could include any of those three.
You mentioned the 5 year
Yeah.
period. Is that something that's public or is that something we?
No, that's public, because we'll solicit it with a base and spell it out in the solicitation. That there are 4 option periods that we have the right to exercise if we still need the continuing service. But if we don't, for some reason, the mission changed and we don't need it, then we notify that, hey, we're not exercising the option. I think because we no longer need the 2, 3, 4, 5. It's a little more efficient for us. And it gives the contractor a little more buy-in, particularly in an expensive thing. You don't want to spend a whole lot of money, maybe buying equipment or bringing people on board to service it just for a year.
Right.
But if there's that 5-year goal, that gives you a little more stability in it.
Makes sense.
And I have a thought, kind of, okay, when we were talking about this earlier, have you ever had a protest?
So I haven't personally, but we have had some questions beginning of protest, and we've had some protested in the office recently, yes.
Okay, ever worked a protest?
Yeah.
Okay, Jamie?
So, we were close to a protest and you are able to protest any bid that we do. I've only been protested one time, that I've been in procurement, not protested, but it was close to protest. And it was with a vendor that was unqualified that had done, subpar work for us in the past. And that we had to go behind and clean up, but we had to redo a lot of stuff and cost us several $1,000s. So we were not willing to go into contract with him again. And we sat down and told him that, and we told him the mistakes that he made, maybe we can correct those. We can look at it in the future, but right now, no. And he did not protest, so I'm not gonna lie, I have not had a protest.
Okay, so follow-up question, Dana, do you know how to protest? The
No,
right way?
I do not.
All right, so the wrong way, right? Because normally, I'm just telling you, I get on the phone with a lot of people, you're mad. First reaction is you're just angry. Okay, here's the thing, if you don't know it, when you become angry, you know what your vision does? It narrows. Physically, your vision narrows when you're angry. So you gotta wait, let that kind of ease up a little bit so you can fully see not only physically, but mentally, emotionally. Go back to that bid. Your protest or your challenge starts with that bid, the bid language, the bid requirements, and based on what you're looking for, they're good people. So, they didn't purposely go out to circumvent the process to set it up where somebody would win and you would lose. So go back to that bid. That's your first point of reference. Go back to that bid and see if the procedures or the requirements in any way, form, or fashion were violated. Did they do something in that process of evaluation that didn't adhere to the guidelines of the bid? Right? So you do your homework first. All right, look at and be objective, look at the people that offered, and say, well, okay, did they respond? Did they have a good response? And sometimes it'll stop there because you're gonna have to pull back and say, well, look, they actually did a good job with their response, with their proposal. Maybe I can learn from them for next time. So normally, and I know mostly the state, but normally, if it gets to the point that you want to protest, like you want it as a matter of record, you're gonna have a time frame. You've got that, protest within the time frame, and then you've actually got to flesh that out and pretty much make your case. In other words, if you thought there was a situation where it was set up where, well, hey, that company is going to receive it once more. But if you can find something that there's been a violation of policy, procedures, things like that, then put that together, formally present that to whoever that personal responsibility is. And listen, they will have to address that.
Is the response to the bid always open? Available?
So far as everybody can respond?
Well,
Is it transparent, do you mean, like,
Yeah.
can you view it?
Yeah.
With the state, I'm not sure all the, disclosure laws with everybody else, but in the state, all of our, everything that has to do with a contract is open. It's open, except for, particular redacted, it's presumed to be, subject to disclosure. So it should all be available for public viewing upon request. We like to put everything out there so we don't have to deal with the requests. I mean, it just makes our jobs easier if we just put everything on our website, and that way you can just go look through it, and we don't have to answer emails about, FOIA requests. So we try to be really transparent on the front end to avoid those kinds of requests.
So federally, we will discuss your proposal with you. We won't discuss others or maybe their rankings or things. Obviously, some of that's proprietary. So we're not gonna give your information out or maybe your method of proposal, your method of operation or anything. We can discuss yours with you and tell you maybe, hey, your past performance was rated at neutral because you're relatively new into this. Well, that's gonna let you know that probably whoever got it had a higher, maybe more experience in it, more past performance or thing. We can tell you about pricing. I mean, we can tell you who we awarded to and what the final price was, what the award's gonna, well, you're gonna know if yours was higher than that, then obviously pricing played into it to a degree. So there's things like, but no, we're not gonna sit down and say, here's somebody's proposal, here's yours, and compare them. That wouldn't be fair.
And it's not even available, even for.
Right, that's not even available under any, because so much of that is proprietary, so we're not gonna give away your trade secrets or your method of.
Well, I've been a couple of fairly. With Meach groups for some fairly large construction and, when you talk about protests, I could probably. Say that there's been at least the want to protest. 20 times over the last year. But they don't, in many cases, because they, first of all, they don't want to be blacklisted. They feel because there's people involved, regardless of the protocols, but it's a lot of work and lots of times they can't get the information.
Right, so I think
You can determine what,
reach out, community, ask the question.
yeah.
So, for this, where in my proposal did I not kind of get it? And we can give you some of those things. I mean, you learn from it, you learn to get better and where you're short. Okay, man, I was a little high on that. No wonder there's things you can do, but yeah, in that side by side, we kind of shy away from that. That's got some. Yeah, it's not understanding.
You have a question?
You were about to say something.
No, sir, I'm good.
This may not be the appropriate forum for this, but I have just a question about best practices as far as subcontracting. And that may not be this may not be the place or what have you.
Do you have a
As far as how-
specific question?
Let's say a big company or a big or small business lands a contract, what are opportunities for a subcontractor? If I want to come in as a subcontractor and provide services, just best practice, like this may not be an appropriate forum for that, but this is something I'm thinking about as far as expanding.
And that, so the state doesn't deal directly with subcontractors, they are just gonna deal with the prime contractor. So that's probably a better question for your PTAC folks. Because that's gonna be about building relationship among in the community, the contractor community. So that's not really an answer. No.
So would it pretty much, just want to make sure, so would it pretty much be that way for all three of you, that you really don't get into the weeds with the subcontractor? You're only dealing with the prime, correct?
Correct. I mean, there are a few terms and conditions in our bids that, the subcontractors can work in illegal immigrants and that type of thing, but that's pretty much as far as we go. I know a lot of our contractors that are active that we're using right now, they have a certain way that they go through those subcontractors and pre-approve them for their projects. So that's as far as I go, just our general terms and conditions.
And just really quick, and how much time do we have, Caitlin?
About 12 minutes.
Okay, so really quick, so if I'm not mistaken, so what you were just working on, is it a subcontract to someone else?
No, it was more of a procurement thing for computer hardware. It is more what I've been digging into lately.
Okay. So just really quick on subcontracting, this is my golden rule for subcontracting. Do your homework first, and whoever that prime is, if you find a history of anything where that prime does not treat their subcontractors well, you mark them off the list. All right, do that homework first. Do they have a bad reputation? In fact, do they have something where, I can tell you one quick car story. So we have somebody that subcontract, right? So they're happy, you know, they're gonna make some money, they're happy. They go to the job site, right? So the prime is walking them through what the requirements are of what they're gonna do. And the subcontractor says, no, that was not on my list. And the prime says, yes, it was. And it turned into a situation where the subcontractor was gonna lose money. And the prime contractor was not going to lose any money. It's just like any other relationship. If you decide to subcontract as best you can, vet that prime contractor and make sure that if there's a situation, that prime contractor has my best interest as well as their own. And I think normally you're gonna be okay. And again, the last thing, and if y'all agree, the best thing that a subcontractor can do is know what that bid says. So what the requirements are, a statement of work, that's your best thing for it to work out.
And can I circle back to something we were talking about earlier about selecting vendors? There is a major component of that I failed to mention, and that's just registering with the state. We right now are kind of working in two different systems. I know that's not preferable for y'all. It's not really preferable for us either, but that's where we are. And so on our website, there is a vendor webpage. I should have brought a printout. I have a really handy printout. There's a vendor page, and there are two places that you can register to receive bid notifications. But in addition to, and those are going to be larger dollar amount notifications. Okay, so and they're going to not be, we're not posting bids every 5 times a day. But it's going to go ahead and get you in the system. You're going to get a vendor number. You're already going to be in our accounting system, and you're going to be in our bid notification system. Okay. So, and that is, it's on the vendor webpage. It'll tell you, it's in like 12-point font, but it'll tell you, go to ARBuy and register as a vendor there. It's free. You'll get bid notifications if they fall under your code. You're registering yourself. So you're putting your own codes in as to what, kind of business you fall under. And then through our vendor registration, just through the website. And then you're registering for like our accounting piece. And so in both cases, you have to be registered regardless. So if we want to do business with a vendor, it's easier for us to do business with a vendor who's already registered in the system, right? Who already has that number, who's already been IRS verified and all of that. So I do recommend that because when we're going and doing our smaller orders and things like that, we're not necessarily looking in that space because it's vast. There are a lot of vendors in those areas. In those systems. But it's helpful if you're already ready. You can say, hey, I'm already a registered vendor in ARBuy and in ACES. You can use that term if you want. So I already have a vendor number. Here's my vendor number, and here are my codes.
So really quick, because we'll have to wrap it up. And here's the thing, as long as they can stay, if you want to ask them a question afterwards. So how many times have you registered so far?
Oh, probably 5 or 6 right now.
Okay, for every registration you do, there's another registration to be done. Because here's the thing, think outside the box. I had one client, Arkansas company, first 2 bids were Iowa and Illinois or somewhere, Wyoming, Iowa and Wyoming. That's where her first work was actually in a different state. So guess what? We had to go register in Wyoming. We had to go register in Iowa. So for every registration, there's another one. So really quick, when I say contracting, what's the first word that pops in your head?
Difficult.
All right.
Paperwork, yeah.
Yep.
A relationship.
For the federal acquisition regulation.
Okay. So the one word you didn't hear me say was no. Right? So there's more yeses than no, so that's what we close. Thank you.
Thank you.
We can open up to questions. If there's any questions, we have a few minutes before.
I was curious, I know about Arkansas Vibe, you said two systems, Arkansas Vibe, and then you said ASIS, what is ASIS?
It's a system of record that the state uses, and we throw that word around. It doesn't mean anything to vendors whatsoever. I think it's just called vendor, I have it written down. It's just vendor registration is how we would refer to it for you. So you would get a vendor number that goes through our vendor maintenance team. They create a vendor number for you and send you your vendor.
I would make sure, I know I'm registered with Arkansas Media and then Arkansas Vibe, and so I should be getting those notifications that you were stating, correct? Okay.
Yes.
If you have an ACES number, always starts with 100, correct? 9 digits.
I think that.
Well, the
yeah,
RFI is
it
different.
starts with
Yeah,
B.
yeah, so.
Of course, but then- I got that. Okay.
I have another question. Oh, sorry.
I was gonna ask, is there a similar system for the Conway and?
We are on that, what you mentioned, our bid, but I also encourage you to check the city's website. It's conwayarkansas.gov, and if you look under bids and opportunities, then they're listed there.
Yeah, and ADC on their the minority division. They specialize in minority business, obviously, but they also have a pretty comprehensive, well, I shouldn't use comprehensive, they have a good list of like where you can register to receive bids. So if you just go to the ADC Minority Division website, and there's maybe a place that's like bid opportunities, and they have a list of just links to each of its different colleges, to our bid, to ARBI, to all of those places. So it's just a nice, package list for you.
Do you have a question?
I think so. All city solicitations will be on ARBI or ARBid, and then you said check their websites too. Oh, okay. Where
The
does
city, check our website.
Yeah, each of the cities are gonna have their own,
Yeah.
unless they're under our bid. I'm not super familiar with
Some
that.
cities there are, some there are not.
Yeah, so it's really, again, different clients. You're
Oh,
looking at, all the schools have their own bidding system, or most of them do. I don't really know exactly how that works. Like the universities, the counties, I mean, you've got lots of opportunity out there, but it does take some work.
But that, our bid will register you for several government entities. We haven't put all of our solicitations on there, and we are moving to be, everything is on there, but we haven't done it so far, and the company sold to another process or software company, so we're right in the middle of that conversion, so that's why I say check our website too.
Great.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much for joining us today.
One thing, what was the website again that was just mentioned? Someone's asking on Zoom.
ConwayArkansas.gov,
Maybe that's what they're asking.
or our bid, AR bid. And then the.
Is it
One that lists all of them, is like, hey, those are the guards that went on this website.
The AEDC, so it's AE, Arkansas Economic Development
Commission.
Commission. So ADC, Minority Division, that's what I would Google. And that's gonna get you to their web page. It's pretty, I mean, it's all kind of in one place, so it's easy to navigate. And there's just a good list of, I don't know if Conway's on there, but they have a good list of bid opportunities there. Places you can register, places you can just go look at bids if they don't necessarily have a registration portal.
Great.
And you can always email thicks@uada.edu if you have a question, and I'll get back to you as quick as I can. If you're looking for a link or a website, we'll try to help you find it as quickly as possible.
And I just want to remind you guys that our next event is June 28th, and that's a startup story. So that's an opportunity where a local entrepreneur shares their entrepreneurial journey with us. We will be providing lunch for you guys that day. And again, that's Wednesday, June 28th at 12. And see you here if you guys can make it. Thank you so much. Thank you.